As a preacher, the one sermon during the year that people often emphasize is always the Easter sermon. Because it's always that one where you think, well, if people do come, maybe you can cause them to come back again. But in each time, preachers would always try to do their best, and they would preach the same sermon, which is the one, Jesus rose from the dead. And that is an absolute fact. And that's one that we share in each week. We actually boast about Christ's death and resurrection each week. But one of the things that we often neglect is we ask the question, why? I mean, we know, we look at the evidence, we talk about the resurrection of Jesus Christ every Easter Sunday and so forth, but do we ask why? Over the last few weeks, I've been sharing a lot of different sermons about different vantage points about grace, looking at the theology of God sending His Son Jesus so that we could be saved. We covered things such as grace, and we covered things such as redemption and reconciliation. And it's built up to this point that I'm continuing on sharing why Jesus came to this earth, why He had to die, why He had to rise from the grave. And I'm going to be continuing this on. Because it's so important to always realize Jesus rose from the grave for a reason. And I want to look at that reason. One of the things that we're going to be emphasizing and learning about today is this idea of justification. This idea of justification. And understand, what is justification? And what does that really have to do with Jesus dying? What does that have to do with Jesus coming into the flesh, dying on the cross, and rising again? For us, it means everything in regards to our salvation. You know, one of the things that we do in America is we really love the concept of justice. You know, you look at all the national papers that we have, from the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, our own Pledge of Allegiance. And we emphasize this idea of justice. You know, we even talk about the Pledge of Allegiance, liberty and justice for all. And we emphasize, we like the idea of justice because justice holds up morality. Justice makes sure that I don't come and steal things from your house, and make sure that I don't take a crowbar and I hit you over the head with it. Because there's always a consequence. It holds up what is good. And when people wrong us, we like it when justice is served and they have to make restitution for the wrong that they have done. We like punishment. We like seeing good things happen. And it breaks our heart when we see bad things happen to the innocent. We see this idea throughout our lives. And in fact, we love to entertain ourselves. You know, it's not unusual in our society to really love reality TV. Everyone watches reality TV because we like seeing real people. But one of the first reality TV shows that was on television that was a major hit was the show Cops. Now, why is it that people love this show, watching our law enforcement officers all across America arresting people? It's because we like justice being served. We like seeing people who are doing wrong paying the just price, saying, you are the ones who are ruining our culture. You're the ones ruining and breaking the law, and there should be justice served. And the producers saw the success of this, that they kept on doing it. It was one of the longest running TV shows because Americans love seeing that. If you look at the top shows that are on television today over the last 40 years, have actually been ones that really had to do with justice, whether it be lawyers or law officers or investigators or FBI agents. We like the idea of justice being served. But we don't like the idea of justice when we're on the receiving end of it. When it comes to justice, it's so easy when someone wrongs us that we cry, foul! I want to see justice. But then when we do wrong, we like to look at ourselves and say, I want mercy. See, this is one of the hard things about God that people really love and hate about Him. They love the fact that God is such a moral and just God that if people do wrong, He will take care of it. And we say, yeah, that murderer should be punished. That sexually immoral person should be punished. But then when the finger's pointed at us, we're like, oh, no. It's me, though. The law applies to everyone else but me. I'm special. I'm unique. And sometimes we hate the view of God's justice in that regard. That sometimes when it's dealing with other people, we call for God's wrath. But when it's called upon us in view of God's wrath, we say, I want the greatest extent of mercy. And that's why God is such an amazing God, but it's also why people love and hate Him. They love justice when it's to other people, but they hate it. They want mercy when it's for themselves. One of the things that we understand about justification is that God fulfills both the fulfillment of wrath and the fulfillment of mercy at the same time through His Son, Jesus Christ. And that's why justification is so powerful. And that's why it makes such a huge difference. Because when we say, I want justice through Jesus Christ, we get it. And when we look to the cross of Jesus Christ and we cry out mercy, we get it again. It's all because of Jesus. But one of the things that we understand is this idea of justification. Why is justification so important? And what is justification? See, justification is actually a very important theological term used throughout the Bible, in the Old and New Testament. And in fact, both the Old and New Testament have the same definition for justification. And that means to declare one righteous. To declare one righteous, saying, you know what? Even though there may be accusations and evidence against you, you're not going to be liable for the punishment that you receive. That's justification. And one of the amazing things that we actually learn about justification is, in view of God's mercy and God's grace and God's forgiveness, in the New Testament, when God is emphasizing grace, justification is one of the most emphasized understandings of grace. We've already covered redemption, we've already covered reconciliation. Justification is mentioned in its various forms in the Greek language through the New Testament a lot more times. And in fact, it's in the hundreds of times in the New Testament. Because, and it begs the question, why is that emphasized so much? It's because it teaches us a lot about the character and nature of God. It shows that God is a holy and moral God, that He has a biblical and moral standard for how mankind ought to live. And once you break that, you're guilty. And now, a lot of us don't like to think we're guilty. A lot of us don't think, how many of you think, I don't deserve to go to hell? I don't deserve to be punished. I mean, we justify our sins. We try to lower it down and say, you know what, I didn't really hurt anybody. Or I'm entitled to my opinion and my actions. You worry about yourself, I'll worry about myself. We often say different things like, well, it's me. Yeah, if Josh did it, or Lexi did it, yeah, punish them. But if it's me, well, it's me. Nothing should happen to me. It's not the kind of attitude we have. And so we try to rationalize sin. But the Bible tells us that there's no one good. No one can earn their way to heaven. No one is good enough for heaven. And in fact, we see a variety of understanding that we're guilty. One of the things that really hit my heart as I was growing and learning about becoming a Christian was reading Peter's sermon on the day of Pentecost in Acts the 2nd chapter, where Peter makes known the bold statement pointing to the people saying, this Jesus whom you crucified is both Lord and Christ. That always penetrated my heart, thinking, it's because of me and my sin that Jesus had to go to the cross. And we read through the book of Hebrews saying, you know what? Sin is what crucifies Jesus. It's because of me. And so does my sin actually make a difference? Does it actually hurt anybody? I think, you know what? Sin doesn't hurt anybody. I did it in my room. No one knows anything. Your sin led to the death of Jesus Christ. And if the death of Jesus Christ is the most worst thing that we could ever do, which it is, how could we make up for it? The answer is we can't. But this is where God bestows justification.